I'm standing at a doorway. On the other side is this great opportunity. As I reach for the handle, my hand trembles and my heart paces. A voice in my head questions me. Michael, you're not as good as you think you are. You can't do this. You don't even belong here. Michael, you're a fraud. Don't open the door, turn around, and walk away. I am overwhelmed with a paralyzing fear. What do I do? Have you ever felt that way? This voice is the imposter. The imposter syndrome is a deeply rooted psychological phenomena that many of us encounter in silence. The imposter is that inner voice that challenges our sense of belonging and our achievements. I'm here not to dismiss the imposter, but to validate it, to illuminate its many faces, and to empower each one of us with strategies to engage with it effectively. Let's face it, this ugly monster never goes away. In reality, self-doubt is persistent. We need to learn to coexist with the imposter, not as an adversary, but as a supporter. We can use these confrontations as a catalyst, spurring us towards a better understanding in dealing with the imposter when it shows up. I grew up in an era where children should be seen and not heard. At home, I was hardly given an opportunity to speak. And when I tried to speak, I was told, Michael, keep quiet. When I asked a question, I was ridiculed. Michael, what a stupid question. Why don't you think before you ask? I felt dismissed and unheard. How would you feel? I came to believe that I didn't have a voice and it was best just to keep quiet. I found it difficult to connect with others and unwilling to share my opinion when asked for fear of judgment or criticism. I felt pressured to be perfect at everything I did, and anything less felt like failure. When I heard the words, "Nice work, Michael," that was my validation that I was good enough. What was it like for you growing up? How has it affected how you feel about yourself? I carried these false beliefs about myself through my adolescence and adulthood. I taught mathematics in Nigeria, West Africa, and in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. I was more than a teacher. I was a mentor, a giver of dreams. With every lesson, I poured a piece of my soul into these kids, seeing their eyes light up with understanding and hope. Yet there was always this doubt that maybe I wasn't making a difference and I was naive in my expectations. I started to seriously examine my thinking, feeling, and behavior. It was time to find out the truth about this imposter that seems to be controlling me. When the imposter came knocking at my door again, I didn't ignore it. I let it in. I acknowledged its presence. I sat with it and understood its fears. I invite you to do the same. Don't shut out the imposter. Welcome it. It's in these confrontations that we will find clarity. The imposter wears many masks, each with its own voice. And I came to know my imposter as the perfectionist and the noticer. Michael, you're not doing it good enough. You got to do it better. Otherwise, you'll look like a failure. People think you're a fraud. Michael, look around the room. Do you think you're as good as your peers? You're not. This dealing with the imposter is a journey in self-discovery. And I would like to share with you my 3 steps that I hope would encourage you to confront your imposter when it shows up. First, I reflect. I take stock of my experiences. I shift my perspective from my failures to my successes. I focus on what is my why. Why am I pursuing this opportunity? What is my purpose? And what is really important to me? Next, I cultivate self-compassion and mindfulness. I am kinder and gentler to myself. How much longer am I willing to beat myself up for not taking risks and for making mistakes? I look at my thoughts and my attachment to the negative stories that I create about who I am. I ask myself, are they true? How am I feeling about myself and my behavior when I believe these stories? I can't change how I feel, but I can change how I think and how I behave. Finally, I connect and communicate. Talking and sharing with people who are willing to listen gives me permission to bring my fears to the light. I speak up. I allow myself to be seen and to be heard. Every time I do, this old fear of being judged reminds me of the doubts that I've outgrown. I am a believer in the power of choice. When the imposter whispers, do you believe in the imposter? Or do you believe your authentic, true self? Let's take a look at a common situation in my life, a conversation with my partner that is teetering on the edge of misunderstanding. When I sense that I'm not getting through, my frustration bubbles up and I'm that kid again, unseen, unheard, shutting down, or storming out. My partner asks me, Michael, you're a teacher, a communicator. How come you can't communicate with me? This is where my 3-step approach kicks in. Step 1, reflecting. I pause and acknowledge what's happening. Here's that imposter again telling me that I'm failing at communicating. Instead of succumbing to the silence or leaving the room, I remind myself of the process. I look at my successes and I learn from my mistakes when talking. What is my why, my motivation when having a conversation? Step 2, cultivating self-compassion and mindfulness. I take a deep breath. This is about being kinder to myself, not berating myself when I'm feeling irritable. It's okay to seek understanding. Mindfulness brings me back to the present, away from the fears of past judgment. I'm here now with my partner, and we both deserve my full attention. Step 3, connecting and communicating. We both are willing to create a safe space where we can have a conversation about what's going on without judgment. It's about curiosity, not defensiveness. I share how I'm feeling without accusation. I ask for clarification. I have 2 ears in one mouth. I listen before I speak. I have led classrooms and workshops, have bridged gaps of misunderstanding wider than this one. I remind myself I'm not a fraud. I'm human. And communication is complex. We may all have an imposter, but we are not the imposter. We coexist. And when it appears, don't run away. Let's face it head on and open ourselves up to a healthy dialogue, reflecting, cultivating compassion and mindfulness, and reconnecting in its presence. When we engage with the imposter, we remind ourselves of our why. We allow ourselves to take risks, to make mistakes, to learn and grow. I am standing at a doorway. On the other side is a great opportunity. I open the door. I walk through. I'm doing it. What about you?